principal of the Fitzgerald Group. Keith, welcome. Good, as always, to see you. Stocks seem, and U.S. stocks particularly, seem to be sort of the prime place to put money. That's where the mutual fund money is going, lots of money going into equities, even though valuations are high.
Well, you know, it's funny. We were just having a discussion in the office about that. And depending on your perspective, it's either the best looking horse in the glue factory or a sign of better things to come. Now, I'm personally going to be in the latter camp because innovation has never failed in the history of time to put more money on the table. So the key is right now identifying great companies, using the right tactics to get into them rather than fear risks you can't control.
What are some of those great companies that you're seeing right now? I happen to know some of the names of them. And why do you zero in on them? What is it that makes them stand out?
Well, that's an interesting question. Again, you know, it's all about perspective, Tyler. And, you know, one of the things we look for is, do they have a great CEO who has a history of executing? So AMD or Apple or Tesla or Palantir, those are all strong visionary CEOs. Do they make must-have products the world can't live without? If they're nice to have, I don't want to be anything near them. But if they're something that's going to carry the world forward for the next 5, 10, 15 years, I'm very interested. And finally, we want to look for companies that have really got strong metrics. What do their customers say? Are they running to them or are they running away from them? If you get all three of those things right, it's very hard to go wrong.
I hear you on strong CEOs, Lisa Su at AMD,
Yep.
Jensen Huang at Nvidia. I wonder, I mean, Elon Musk has a lot on his plate. Can he really run Tesla?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. And here's why I say that is I've had the good fortune to meet lots of controversial, visionary people during the course of my career. That is always the charge that is leveled against them. It was leveled against Steve Jobs. It was leveled against Bill Gates. It was leveled against Sir Richard Branson. You know, these are the kind of folks who have got minds that never stop. They're playing chess. Well, the rest of the world is playing tiddlywinks. And that is uncomfortable for people who are in the latter camp. So I would submit the answer is yes, he's not only going to be able to do it, he's going to do it in a way that catches people by surprise.
Is tiddlywinks that like jacks?
Well, when I was growing up in the age of the dinosaurs, you would flip these little things around in the dirt or on the table, and, you know, that was the game.
I'm going to look that up, actually. So, Keith, we've talked a lot about Nvidia over the years. Obviously, we're just mentioning Tesla, Palantir. What are your highest conviction holdings going into 2025?
Well, you've just named three of them, and, you know, here's why. Again, you know, I don't believe you get off a winning horse in the middle of the race. You got to manage risk. You got to use the right tactics, you know, all of those kinds of things, but we're continuing to focus there. I'm looking at next order derivatives. I'm, you know, seriously into defense. I want some dividends. Energy, for example, Chevron is a big one for me because we are still going to need dinosaur juice for a long time to come. And as the bloom comes off the roads with EVs, that's a logical extension for me.
All right, let's talk about Bitcoin. What advice would you give to an individual investor who just looks at 100,000 and says, man, this thing has gone up 25, 30, I don't know what the percentage is since the election. But at any rate, it's been going up a lot, and this is exactly the time that individual investors tend to be pulled in. What advice would you give them?
FOMO is not an investment strategy, Tyler. So if you're going to go into it because you believe it's going to go a lot higher, that's one thing. If you're going to go into it because you feel like you're missing out, that is exactly the wrong thing to do. And this is the wrong time to be buying. So I think you got to make up your mind as to how you want to approach it. Me personally, I don't like it because I don't like the way it functions, but I do believe we're going to digital currency. So I'm hunting for investments that are going to be around Bitcoin. What's Ethereum look like? What's blockchain look like? How do the companies that are involved in digital clearing factor into this? That to me is a real investment. Bitcoin, awesome. Love everybody who's on board, but not for me.
Bill Miller says it's 2014 still for Bitcoin. So I'll just leave that with you and ask you about
There you
Apple.
go.
On the way out, Keith. So Apple has not exactly been a momentum stock this year, although we can check its performance. Why do you think this could be a sleeper kind of star going forward?
Well, I'm reminded of two instances in Apple's history, and the markets line up almost page for page with this. I'm reminded when they introduced the iPhone, and nobody thought that was a big deal. Steve Ballmer famously poo-hooed it. I'm reminded of when they introduced services in 2014. People poo-hooed that, too, because they thought it would take the focus off of the iPhone. But the situation we are in today is that software system, AI, these things are still early innings. And the fact that nobody is paying attention to Apple again at a time when it's making big changes to me is an investing opportunity, not a threat.
I love how it's up 26% this year, and I'm like, it hasn't done that well. That's the kind of year it's been.
See,
Not a
26,
standout.
yeah, I mean, it's just, it really does. I mean, it messes with your head.
It does.
If something
Yes.
isn't up 150%, well, it's terrible, it's crappy.
I know.
26, I take 26% and roll that over
All the way to the bank.
all day.
We joked that 26% was a good week.
Yeah. Keith, thanks so much. Good to see you, Keith Fitz-Gerald of the Fitz-Gerald Group.